Matthew,
So they weren't.
Matthew and John were right.
So Mark wasn't an eyewitness. Yeah. This is definitive. Mark wasn't an eyewitness. Luke wasn't an eyewitness. Okay. Right. Now I'm going to argue Matthew wasn't.
Hang on, let me take that back a minute because Mark was Peter's secretary.
Why do you believe that?
So he could have been because Peter tells us, "My beloved son Mark to you."
Where does Peter say?
In his letter, he tells it.
Where does Peter say Mark is writing on my behalf?
Mark is Peter's secretary.
No.
We know from church history.
Where does it say that? Where does you just quoted Peter saying it? Where
it says, "I'm sending to you."
Where does Peter say this?
It's at the end of his letter.
No. Where does Peter say Mark's gospel is what I'm saying? Where's Peter say this?
So he doesn't say that.
He doesn't say that. All right. So I'll go back to my original question. Why do you believe Mark was a scribe of Peter?
Because we know that Mark was with Peter. We know that Mark wrote down lots of stuff because the other church fathers tell us that Mark wrote down.
What did Peter say about Mark's gospel? Did he encourage the reading of it?
But the Gospels weren't compiled in their current form while the apostles were still around.
Sorry?
Only John's was
Sorry?
by him.
You hear what Jesus said to the apostles?
Say that again.
So the Gospel, the canon of the Bible wasn't finished when the apostles were around.
So you're saying when Peter was around, there was no Gospel of Mark?
There wasn't a book that you could give to Peter.
Oh, okay.
So there were writings that Mark done.
So what's Clement of Alexandria talking about when he refers to the Gospel of Mark and Peter?
The Gospel that Mark.
Where Clement of Alexandria says Peter neither neither encouraged or discouraged the reading of the Gospel of Mark. Why would Clement of Alexandria say that?
Where does it say that? I'm not familiar with it. You might say that, but I'm not familiar with it.
Okay. Let me. See, here's the thing. I don't do people's homework for them. I like them to reveal this themselves. Right. So my question to you is this: would you agree with me if Clement of Alexandria is saying that means Mark's gospel was around at the time of Peter?
It was around-ish. So Mark was writing things.
Was Peter aware of the Gospel of Mark? Is my question.
So he would have been aware that his secretary was writing things for him. Whether he recognised it as that gospel.
Right. So he didn't rubber stamp it then.
Well, he would have known what Mark was writing about him. So he would have been telling Mark all the things that.
Why is there no mention of resurrection in the Gospel of Mark?
There is in the final chapters.
You don't believe them?
I do believe them.
Or you believe the final?
Yes. Just because some of the early ones they didn't have it doesn't mean it exists. Why would all the other Gospels have it?
So you follow the minority opinion that the ending of Mark, drinking poison and all that, was true.
So I believe that's all true. Yeah. Because all the other Gospels agree.
So all the biblical scholars that say this is a forgery, you disagree with?
Who says it's a forgery?
All of them.
Forgery?
End in a Mark. There is no end in a Mark.
Who says it's a forgery?
Which Bible do you read? Which Bible you got in your pocket?
I've got the English Standard, King James.
Read Mark 16. Oh, you got them on your phone?
Hang on. That's a good security. It's that thing that was going off, isn't it? But Mark is there in all the other Gospels as well.
No. According to the majority of biblical scholars,
I don't care what biblical scholars.
I know you don't. You don't care. Okay, you don't care about people who spent their life studying the text. Fine.
Most biblical scholars you got.
All right. So
okay.
What do you base your research on?
On the historical church fathers and what they said.
And the biblical scholars don't do that.
The biblical scholars have got their own.
So they don't use the church father citations and such.
To a certain extent, they do. Yeah.
Do they or don't
they? Everything. No, they believe.
So let me just understand one thing.
They are more important than the church fathers. They think they have better.
But you think you're more important than?
No, I think the church
biblical
fathers.
scholars.
No, I think the church fathers are more important.
But we just said the church fathers. Sorry, we just said the biblical scholars do use the church fathers.
They do use them, but they think they're more important. They think their methodology now can overrule what people knew in the first century. They think that what they've done in the 20th century through.
Why is that? Why do you think that is?
Because they've gone through methodology.
Well, not necessarily, because they've realised that you don't have the originals of what you have. Yeah, they've realised as you discover more
they don't have the originals.
You don't have the originals.
The early church fathers had the originals.
No, but the point we have is this: we can see after the discovery of new manuscripts that it contradicts the previous book. So, for example, the KJV needed a revision after the discovery discovery of the Codex Sinaiticus, because they highlighted all the additions and such that was found that were not found in the oldest manuscripts. Now you yourself as a non-biblical scholar can turn around and say to me, well, I don't care. But biblical scholars, when they look at the antiquity and they look at the oldest manuscripts, and they know that the manuscripts are copied from manuscripts, if you have a manuscript containing something that's not found in the original, that's a forgery.
You know it's not in the original. Where is your original?
In the oldest.
No, you said original. So now
By original, okay, let me rephrase that. By the oldest manuscript.
Yeah, so what they do, the way the biblical scholars work, they have two methods. They have the majority text, which is where they look at all the manuscripts and say, well, the majority say this, and they go with the majority text. Then you have the critical text, which looks at all the manuscripts and say, well, yeah, the majority say this, but these ones are older and these ones have got more weight because they're more
look, you can have 20,000.
So different ways.
You can have 20,000 manuscripts with 1 John 5:7 in them, and everyone thinks, oh, this is reliable because all these manuscripts say it. But if the manuscripts prior to it that it's copied from didn't have 1 John 5:7 in it, then it doesn't matter about them 20,000.
But if others have attested to it through their letters and writings,
who's attested to it?
that's what we said, the church fathers. That you just said that the scholars.
Oh, okay, you keep talking. All right. So you keep talking.
It's not simple just picking up a script and saying, right, copy that script. Those scripts were letters.
Why do you believe what the church fathers say?
Because it all goes together.
No, why do you believe what they say?
Because it all comes together, it's coherent. So when you take the whole lot together, it's coherent. When you take individual bits, you say, well, yeah, that bit might have come from somewhere else. But it's only when it's corroborated.
Why do you believe what church fathers say are reliable? For example, when Papias in the 2nd century says that Matthew's the author of Matthew, why do you believe what Papias says? I'm just trying to understand. I'm not tearing things down here, I'm trying to understand.
Because the church fathers walked with the apostles. Okay? So they are straight away, they are disciples of the apostles.
Which ones?
Sorry?
Which church fathers?
All the early church fathers.
Which ones?
Polycarp.
Polycarp. Who was Polycarp a disciple of?
Polycarp was John, wasn't it?
Yeah. But there's a funny thing about Polycarp. He never quotes from the Gospel of John.
No, because John was encouraged to write his gospel at a late age by his followers because he became Bishop of Ephesus.
No, but so why doesn't a disciple of somebody quote them?
He would have quoted John because he would have been learning from John. So you might not be able to find.
More homework.
You may not be able to find an exact quote that you can copy.
But
all the others would have been quoted directly from.
You seem a nice and reasonable guy. More homework for you. Okay. Go on.
I love doing homework.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the homework for you now. Did Polycarp ever quote from the Gospel of John? And if he didn't,
what's my question to prove that or disprove it? Because
okay, so you would look at the things Polycarp says, and he would reference it from John. Yes.
So you said I must find a reference from Polycarp that says John.
Okay. What's my claim? According to biblical scholars, not me, not Muslims, from Christian biblical scholars.
Not all Christian.
Okay.
Strange Christian.
Polycarp never quotes from the Gospel of John.
Right.
And this is why they question whether he was a disciple of John or not.
So what they're saying is, are they saying they cannot find a quote from the Gospel of John?
They're saying, why should we? What they're saying is, why should we believe this man is a disciple of John when he never quotes from his Gospel?
All the other church fathers also agree that Polycarp came from John, because there's a history. It's like your chains of narration.
It isn't.
The early church fathers had people who spoke to people who spoke to people who knew they was reliable, because it's all part of the.
I'll tell you how corrupt your church fathers are. Would you say Eusebius is a church father?
He comes a bit later, he writes the church history, yeah.
All right. So you have Origen, yeah?
Origen he had his problems. They all had the problems. The early church.
All right, so when Origen read the letters of Josephus, yeah, about Jesus, who he was, Origen complained as to why he's not saying he's the Messiah and he's more than a man. Why is he not saying he was resurrected? Why is Flavius Josephus, the historian, not saying these things? When Eusebius inherits the library of Origen, All of a sudden now Josephus's letter is saying that. Yeah, the things that Origen complained that the letter wasn't saying, when Eusebius got his hands on it, all of a sudden now it's saying it. It's saying he's more than a man.
So Josephus wrote lots of stuff. It doesn't mean that Origen had access to everything.
More homework for you. More homework for you.
You give me all this that it's going to be impossible to find.
No. Just go and just research it. Was it not called? I don't know if this controversy of Eusebius was about this thing, but the point I'm saying to you is this: when Origen complained about something about a letter from Josephus, that same letter included the things Origen complained about that weren't there.